WWE can make WarGames better again, and they can do so by improving this concept by making one notable change. In this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what the problem is and how they can solve it, because that's actually a very easy fix if they go ahead and do so. Now, look, WWE, they brought back the WarGames concept, something initially done in the NWA and WCW in 2017. For the most part, for the first few years, it was just an NXT exclusive because, well, Triple H is a huge fan of old school wrestling, and Vince McMahon, despite the fact that he purchased WCW and the WarGames trademarks and the rights to use it, he opted not to. And let's be real, Survivor Series and the traditional WarGames type match, it had been stale for quite some time. And then when Triple H took over main roster creative in the summer of 2022, he opted to bring it to the main roster, something which was very well received by fans. The inaugural event in November of 2017 featured Undisputed Era versus Akam, Razor, Roderick Strong, it was the Undisputed Era with Akam and Razor taking on Sanity. And then the following year, you had Undisputed Era taking on Hanson, Pete Dunne, Ricochet, and Rowan. And then finally, in 2019, WWE opted to go from one WarGames match exclusively with men to two WarGames matches because they wanted to introduce the women. This is something in which WWE has done for years. If you have a Money in the Bank match, you got to have one for the women. Same with the Royal Rumble. Same with Hell in a Cell. Same with TLC back in the day. Whenever you have a pay-per-view theme, whether it's Money in the Bank or Royal Rumble or Elimination Chamber, you have to have one for the men and for the women because of inclusion and wanting them to come together. But I also think, though, that while the idea behind that is solid and it has the right intentions, I think it also takes away from the stipulation, Elimination Chamber, WarGames, or Royal Rumble. That's where this video picks up, because it was in 2019 that they had the first ever women's WarGames match. You had Bianca Belair, Io Sky, Kaylee Ray, and Shayna Baszler taking on Candice LeRae, Dakota Kai, Rhea Ripley, and Tegan Nox. They followed it back in 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023. Last year's WarGames matches were absolutely loaded. The women, it was Asuka, Bayley, Io Sky, and Kairi Sane taking on Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair, Charlotte Flair, and Shotzi. Yeah, that's a loading card. Look at the men's WarGames match. Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, Randy Orton, Sami Zayn, and Seth Rollins taking on Damian Priest, Dominic Mysterio, Drew McIntyre, Finn Balor, and JD Madonna. I mean, absolutely loaded. Here's the thing that WWE can do to make WarGames special again. Have one WarGames match. I'm not saying you have to eliminate the women's match. I'm not saying that. I'm saying simply have one. If you do two WarGames matches in one night, it takes away from the other. You are either looking forward to one of the matches over the other, and you're just not interested in the other match, therefore it takes the crowd reaction down, or you have to save spots and moments for the other match later in the night. And let's be real, most of the time, the women open, the men close. So if we're talking about inclusion, shouldn't the women main event the show, right? Like, sometimes? Not often. If you look at it from that standpoint, you are making the matches feel more special going into it because you only have one. You also can put all your eggs in one basket by doing one match instead of two. And you don't have to force feed storylines just because, oh, we need a men's or, oh, we need a women's WarGames match. In a lot of cases, a la this year, without going into too many spoilers potentially, if you look at the women's WarGames match, it's a little unnecessary. They had to feed in various mixtures of storylines just to put one match on the card. On the men's side, though, you have a lot of depth to it. You have the Bloodline storyline. You have Jey and Sami Zayn once again aligning with Roman and Jimmy to form the OG Bloodline. reuniting once again. And then you have the new bloodline, led by Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu with the Tongas, and a fifth person. Also, the OG bloodline will need a fifth person as well. So you have, outside of adding in two names that you don't necessarily need, the bloodline storyline dictates and understandably welcomes the WarGames concept, unlike the women. I would also, if you're nitpicking on WWE's bookings of WarGames, the OG bloodline versus the traditional bloodline, or the new bloodline, if you will, it really should be 4-on-4. There's no real reason to bring in two other people for one side and the other. It's just not. You don't have to dictate every single year it has to be 5v5. It doesn't. Why? If the storyline is perfect, if the storyline says we only need 4 people on each side, we need a total of 8 men or women in the squared circle, why add in other people? It waters it down instead of elevating it. Gimmicks and themed type matches, they are designed to elevate matches, not to water them down. You need a blow-off match, a la WarGames, you bring it in, you book it. You don't just do it on a random episode of Monday Night Raw or Friday Night SmackDown. You use it to elevate things. You use it to elevate the storyline. You need a blow-off to a match. If you have outside interference all the time, you bring in a shark cage or Hell in a Cell or steel cage. If you want to determine a new, title contender, you book a Battle Royale or a Royal Rumble. Something like that, right? Don't water it down. People love the WarGames concept. I'm one of them. It's different. It's unique. It can be plotting because you have to kill like 20, 25 minutes before the match even gets started because you have to wait for everyone to get in there. But once they're in there, it's one of the most exciting, unpredictable type matches that is going to be a barn burner. Is going to be a spectacle. It's going to be violent, and they're going to use various weapons. And most of the time, sure, the baby faces go over, but that's what happens usually in the end of storylines, right? You get the good guy or the good girl to go over those nasty heels. But anyways, that's how WWE can fix the WarGames